this filming, it is June, and I am just a few weeks away from finishing my career as an elementary art teacher. It's a huge transition, it's a big change, and I am so excited about all of the possibilities. But because of that, it's gotten me thinking a lot about the idea of finishing and how do we know when a work of art is finished? But that's actually not the question we should be asking. What we should be asking ourselves is, did I accomplish what I set out to do? Every time we start a work of art, if we think about what is the purpose, what is the reason that I'm making this art, then it's that much easier to know when you're done. Did you accomplish what you set out to do? Is the feeling or the emotion that you were trying to create there? Was the technique that you were trying to experiment and explore, did you accomplish that technique? Did you learn something? Or possibly, what is it that you were trying to experiment with? Were you trying to see how far you could push a medium and you got to the point where you pushed it farther than you ever had? Then maybe that work of art is finished. Maybe it has done for you as an artist exactly what you needed to do for you. But there's always that other side of, does it look good? Will this sell? Is this, compositionally correct? Is it, have I really done a full range of values here? And is everything balanced? Well, those are a different type of question. Those are more critiques. Those are more getting down into the nitty gritty. And for you, maybe that is not your end goal. That might not be the purpose of that artwork. So I think it's really important to think about, what is it that I'm setting out to accomplish? For me, I'm often trying to create a series and explore an idea all the way through. So my question then has to be very different. Does this piece add to my series? Does it enhance it? Or is it something that's taking away from my series? That's happened to me quite often. And I have completely abandoned that work, put it aside, never to be seen, never to be sold, maybe cut up, used as collage for something else. So today, I'm just going to share some artworks that I'm looking at very specifically to say, have I accomplished what I want to accomplish? And if not, what are some of the next steps that I need to think about? So let's go look at these pieces. I've already gone through an entire box of artwork that is just sitting in my closet. They're not necessarily abandoned, but they're pieces that I haven't decided to sell or mount or do anything important with. Part of that is because maybe I'm a little unsure about the clarity of the piece, the finished nature of the piece. Is it worthy? Does it fit into where I am as an artist now? And that has a lot to do with, what is the purpose of the art? But I've taken out a few piles and I'm just going to address each pile in a separate way. This particular, it was just a series of two. My entire goal was to take some artwork that was really not very successful in my eyes, did not accomplish some of the things that I was setting out to do, and to rearrange and create an entirely new collage out of those pieces. I love how cohesive these two are next to each other. And because I was working from pieces that had a similar color palette, similar techniques and textures, that was very successful for me. So I feel like I did accomplish that. These two work together. I was taking something that was a little bit more fluid and organic and taking that and adding some geometry to it. And I did that by actually cutting out rectangles, circles, square shapes. So I took something a little organic, made it geometric. I feel like that's successful. I also had to consider differences, thinking about how are parts of my artwork different and how am I, from what I'm putting them next to. So that's really important. And I think overall that was successful. But I was also thinking about continuity and having different elements that relate to each other so that each part of the work doesn't feel separate. So I feel like that was successful too. Obviously, I'm always thinking about composition. Where does my eye go to first? Does my eye continue to move around the work? Did I leave a little bit of space to breathe? And I feel like overall this piece does that. So that was successful. And at this point, I can't say there's something I would add that would make them more than what they are. If anything, if I tried to add something, I think it would become overall even busier, too crowded. So that's an easy way to decide whether or not these two are finished. And I also feel like if I were to take anything away, I think it would throw off the composition and some of the elements that are mirroring each other and just making the pieces feel cohesive. So in my eyes, these are finished. In your eyes, they may not be. And that's because we have different ways of thinking about art. We have different ways of creating. We have different mindsets. And that's okay. If you look at these two pieces and think, oh, I would totally rearrange this in a different way, that's awesome. And I absolutely applaud that because you're thinking beyond the surface. You're thinking about possibilities, and that's always important. It's just that we're different artists with different skill sets and techniques and things that we enjoy. It's our own personal voice. So even though I'm saying, yes, these are finished, that doesn't mean you would. So keep that in mind as we go forward. These next pieces, I was looking at creating some images, again, from some collage papers and materials that I had been using. And I wanted to work with line and thinking about how line and direction and different textured played next to each other with some other drawing elements going on. And I think what's really interesting when you're working, especially in a square format, and you're also thinking about different directions of things, you know, these lines could be vertical, these lines could be horizontal. I could have even done something diagonal, but for my personal taste, vertical is the direction I typically go in. It just has a different feeling to me. It feels lofty. It feels like it could grow, where sometimes horizontal feels very grounded, very stable. So it's just a matter, again, of personal interest and taste. I do not find these as successful as my first pieces. The values, I do have some nice value changes in here, but I feel like overall it lacks something that pulls me in. So maybe for me, line is not enough. Maybe I need something that cuts in and breaks up this line a little bit more. Maybe I need something more fluid or organic in this one that's missing. Or maybe I need some open, calm spaces that are missing from this work. So although I was enjoying the process and experimenting with the idea of vertical line and line segments and the size differences, it was a great experiment, and I like the color scheme, but overall, I feel like it's lacking something. It's just not quite finished. I want something that really sucks me in, and that is what is missing here. It's, even though I really did try to break up the line and the verticalness of it with some of these loose drawings, I don't think it brought enough in. So maybe what I need to do is break up the verticalness. That is something that I need to think about. So again, I was experimenting and I accomplished what I wanted in my experiment. But for an overall finished piece, I do feel like it's lacking. And it might be that these yellow circular shapes are too cut off, and maybe I need to bring them in over top. So it's given me an idea. So was this a failed attempt? No. It's given me something more to think about and another place to experiment. So just even talking about it right now, I already have a new direction that I want to do on top of this that will give me additional ideas for a new work of art. So a good experiment, a really thoughtful, thinking on this. And now I have some place that I can move forward. So I'm not finished with this. I'm not finished with this idea because I don't feel like I was 100% successful in thinking about vertical line and how I could use that in a work of art. So something to continue. So no, not finished yet. These other pieces are very obvious to me. There's almost no question whether or not these are finished. To me, they're not. This one I just did recently, and this was from one of my master classes in the Paste and Paper Playground about blind contour drawing and loosening myself up to create something a little bit more abstract. Was that part successful? Absolutely. I accomplished what I set out to do. I did a beautiful blind contour drawing. I love the leaf forms. I love the combination of written paper and some other collage on top of that, along with paint. And I love some of the mark making that I've done. But the composition is not right. And it's so crowded that there is no space to breathe. And it's almost like bursting out of this square. Now, if that is your own particular taste, that could be a good thing. And I do like close-ups of a work, of an object, of things. I like to pack a space. I like to, think large, but this one just isn't there yet. And when I do look through a value finder, which is just an app on my phone, or you could do a black and white photograph of the artwork, there are some really nice contrast and value, so that's a good thing, but it's the composition. So I've actually decided that this needs to be extended, that I need some space to breathe. So this is not finished. These two suffer from basically the same thing. There's a lot going on here. There's not a lot of room to breathe. There's not a place to really settle. Some of the values are not as good as this particular piece, had better value scale than these two. So I know that these are not finished. However, what was I working on? What was I trying to accomplish? Here, I was trying to accomplish using some very simple geometric and organic shapes together. I was trying to create some contrast out of some jelly plates that I had. I was trying to get different types of line in here, which I do have. I have some bold line, some fine line, but none of these are a star. There's nothing that is like, wow, look at the difference between those things. They're really not. And what's interesting is that these all have like vase and leaf forms. So this is actually a really good 3 pieces for me to go work back into, because they have a similar subject matter, all done in different styles for sure, even different mediums. This is more painterly, this is more collage and jelly printing. This was a combination of printing and painting. So these are going to be something really interesting for me to come back to and work on. So again, what is it that you're trying to accomplish when you're trying to figure out, am I done? Look back and take away first the technical parts. Don't focus on the composition yet. Don't focus on the value study. Don't focus on the balance. Is all of those technical things, those, design things that you know as an artist, and just look at, first and foremost, did I accomplish what I set out to do? Does it feel the way I want it to feel? Does it, was I experimenting with something and did I learn something? Was I exploring a new medium and, what did I accomplish from that and learn? Because sometimes it's worth abandoning because you got from the artwork what you needed, enough to move on to the next steps, to a new artwork. And maybe you do create a series. And when you do start thinking about a series, you're always looking to say, does this piece enhance or take away from the series that I'm trying to create? Does it tell the story I'm trying to tell? That's what makes a successful piece. The technical stuff, that can be worked on at any point. But thinking about, what is it that I want to put out? What was I trying to accomplish? Did I do it? Is a much stronger question than, am I finished? So I hope you'll think about that a little bit. Pick some pieces of your own from your box of abandoned work and maybe pick 5, something that, just like I have here, that I will go back in and work on to actually get it to the point where I've accomplished what it is that I want to accomplish. So I hope, after just seeing how I'm thinking about these artworks, I hope you'll stay tuned and see where I go with some of these. And in your own work, as you go through some of your pieces, I really want you to think about, is this an opportunity to experiment with something? Is this an opportunity to learn something? Is this an opportunity to explore, to express, to practice, investigate, or possibly discover something? You can't really look at your work and critique it until you figured out, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? Then you'll know what direction you need to go next and if your artwork is actually finished. So if you're enjoying this video and you want to go deeper into your play, practice, or process, I hope you'll join me for the Paste and Paper Playground, a membership for artists, and go really deep into the kinds of things that we're exploring here. I share and show so much more. This is just the tip of the iceberg and the taste of what is yet to come. So thank you for being with me here today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.